No.
Especially those circle flowers.
Yeah.
You have a yellow mask.
Oh, she just has that
You
like.
literally have 3 dogs that are with you.
Yes.
You have 3 computer dogs, that's not intimidating.
I'm gonna get myself a big dog one day. And then you're gonna be intimidated.
Okay,
I'm intimidated.
That is awful.
I'm gonna start shining lasers in your eyes. You start talking.
I don't think that's good for your eyes.
It's probably not.
Okay, I'm probably blind and won't affect
I'll
me.
probably get some parents that are really concerned about this. So I'm joking. If parents are watching.
It's like, am I
Yes.
intimidated? Am I intimidated?
Intellectual.
No, that was David. She got that little.
All right, so, all right, let's get through this so y'all can have some time to work on your assignment.
Why do you think we did that?
Oh,
Are you okay? Oh, thank you. You just don't want to be on camera?
Yes.
You're camera shy? Are you in the witness protection program?
I didn't want to disturb them.
Is there a mob like after you?
I like.
wow.
If you want to, tell you.
You wouldn't tell, okay, it's fine. Just blink once if you're in danger. Okay. All right, 2D questions. These are rhetorical questions, so please don't raise your hand and answer them right now. What are physical properties? What are chemical properties? And how can I tell whether a change in matter is physical or chemical? That's what we're talking about today. Physical properties are anything about a substance that can be observed or measured without altering the substance's chemical composition. So anything you use your 5 senses for, we're doing Science Week in STEM, and they're talking about how we use our senses to observe the world. You can use your senses to observe physical properties. All right. Physical properties include ductility, the ability of a solid material to be pulled into a wire. Can anyone give me an example of something that would have good ductility?
I really like
Duct
that
tape.
word.
What's in a lot of different wires or cables?
Oh.
Copper.
Copper, that's
Plastic.
right. Copper is used because it is bendable. It doesn't break easily.
Plastic.
Plastic,
There's no plastic.
not quite.
What's the,
What about a plastic?
it goes around it, isn't that rubber? Or plastic?
Yes, so that is like, it's an insulation. So it keeps, it's a shielding.
So rubber.
So when you have like a network cable, like a Cat 6 cable, you've got braided copper fibers in the middle. You've got a shielding, typically like a plenum shield. Plenum makes it fireproof or fire resistant-ish. And then you've got like an insulating shield around that. Okay, so that keeps it from, like if you have multiple network cables running alongside each other, it keeps them from interfering with each other. So the electromagnetic radiation, it helps keep it from interfering with other signals. All right, so most cables have copper in them. So copper has good ductility. Lead does not have good ductility. You guys know like the lead that you put in a mechanical pencil, that would make a horrible cable or a horrible wire because it would just snap, right? There are certain things that we use in cable or wire, not necessarily wire, but we have like fiber optic cables that are made of glass. So fiber optic is great because it means your network speeds are really fast. You can transfer information really quickly through the speed of light, but they're also very, very fragile because it's glass. So if you break it, then the light will get refracted and it won't actually get to its destination. So there's certain things that we use in cables that aren't necessarily high in ductility, but they still transfer material quickly. This is all a sidebar, okay? All you need to know is ductility is the ability of a solid material to be pulled into a wire. Good example, copper, bad example, lead, okay? Malleability, the ability of some solid materials to be hammered or pressed into sheets. Again, copper is a really good example. You've got steel, okay? Steel is an alloy of iron and carbon, I believe, if I remember right. So malleability, if you've ever seen, like in some old homes, you've seen like copper or tin on the ceiling that are like pressed into really pretty designs. So that's malleability, is the ability to kind of shape a metal. You can use a hammer, you can just bend it. It has a good movability, so it's kind of flexible. Again, lead would be a really bad example of this. What was your question?
No, I was saying forged in fire. The show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, oh, forged in fire. I thought you said forest. Okay. Got you. Yeah, forged in fire.
So like with metal.
Mhm. Yeah. All right, so malleability. So you just need to know what these terms are. Okay. All right, conductivity is the ease, not the easy, the ease with which a material allows the transfer of either electrical or thermal energy. So things that are good conductors, typically metals. Bad conductors would be like styrofoam or plastic or rubber. Okay. Insulators versus conductors. We'll talk about that more when we get to electricity and thermodynamics. All right, so conductivity is the ease with which a material allows the transfer of either electrical or thermal energy. Luster is the quality of how a material reflects light. So something like gold has high luster, something like lead does not have high luster. Okay, shiny versus not shiny. Physical changes. So any change in matter that does not alter the composition of the substance. Examples of that, we'll get to examples next, I believe. So how can you tell if something's a physical change versus a chemical change? Physical changes are often just a phase change. Water going from liquid to solid. So water turning into ice. It's just a phase change. It's a physical change. It's not becoming something else. It's becoming ice, but it's just changing its phase. It will still melt back into water. Right? So it can change back and forth. That's a physical change. If I were to smash this desk with a sledgehammer, that would be a physical change because I'm just breaking it into smaller pieces. It doesn't turn it into something else other than a mess, right? But I can still put it back together. It would still be a desk. It doesn't become an apple if I smash it, okay? Physical changes can be easily reversed. So you could turn water into ice. And it could easily be reversed from ice to water. Okay. Physical changes. No new products are formed. I mentioned that. You're not smashing this desk and turning it into an apple. You're not melting ice and turning it into a balloon. Okay. There are physical changes that cause color change. Okay, you can add dye to a piece of fabric. That's a color change. That's physical. There's also chemical color changes, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So physical color changes is when you can add color to something and take the color out. So think about it that way. So adding dye to a shirt, adding Kool-Aid to water. Yeah.
Oh, the first two?
For the first two.
Phase change and
Phase change and easily reversed. Yeah, this is on one of your worksheets if you're working on those. All right. No new products are formed. They can cause color change. All right, examples of physical changes. Adding drink mix to water. Adding Kool-Aid to water. It changes color, but you can still, the Kool-Aid can settle out eventually. Okay. Popping balloons. Okay, it's not turning into something else. Slicing apples. And wadding paper. Those are examples of physical changes. Chemical properties. So we're going to talk about chemical properties first and then talk about what is a chemical change. So a property of a substance that describes how its chemical identity changes in the presence of another substance or under a certain condition. That's the textbook definition of a chemical property. The definition. All right. It describes how its chemical identity changes in the presence of another substance or under certain conditions. So chemical changes often, always turn into a new product. Okay, chemical change equals new product because of what's going on, the changes molecularly that are going on in the presence of another substance. So if I introduce hydrogen to oxygen, they're going to react together and form water. So that's a chemical change. All right, or under certain conditions. Chemical properties. Reactivity is the degree to which a material will react with other substances. Okay, the chemical property of my shoe is pretty low because it's not going to react with other things. Okay. but the chemical property of hydrogen is higher because it reacts with other substances. Okay? Flammability, the ability of a material to burn in the presence of oxygen. Obviously, alcohols have high flammability. Hairspray, yeah. Yeah, the accelerants in hairspray, or like compressed air. All right, so that's flammability. So the ability to burn in the presence of oxygen, the ability to combust, basically.
Would gunpowder be one?
Yeah.
Silly string?
Silly string. Is that flammable?
Yes, it's very fun.
I feel like that.
Yeah.
I feel like we should try that someday.
Imagine
Just like,
doing that during a bonfire.
I mean, outside.
Can I please light it on fire? We'll see.
I probably have to get that approved by Mr. Weber.
I can get my mom's
We'll see.
permission every.
What?
Arson.
It's okay.
No,
I'm not
arson's
gonna burn
only.
any.
Arson's
burns.
only if you
Yeah.
use it, if you use fire to destroy someone's property. All right, moving on. Chemical changes. A chemical reaction, this is another term for chemical change. Chemical reaction equals chemical change, is when two or more substances are changed into a new substance. Matter is not created or destroyed because of the law of conservation of matter. We know that. It is at the molecular level. So there are signs that can indicate a chemical reaction. And we'll talk about each of those signs that indicate chemical reaction. You guys are typing furiously. Do y'all type and look at your fingers, or do you look at the screen?
I look at the screen.
So,
I learned how to type on AOL Instant Messenger when that came out in like,
oh my gosh.
okay. All right, color changes. This is one indicator of a chemical reaction. You know how we said color changes are also an indicator of a physical reaction? They're indicators of chemical reactions as well. For instance, rust on a bicycle is formed when oxygen and iron react together. They form a new substance called iron oxide. Okay? All right, the new compound called iron oxide changes the color of the bike. Rust is kind of that like orangey red color. So rust is an example of a chemical color change versus like adding dye to a fabric. Okay. Temperature changes are also indicators of chemical reactions. Chemical reactions can cause energy to be absorbed or released. And my slide is frozen. You can do it. I believe in you. So this is going to say adding an antacid tablet to a cup of water will lower the temperature. Okay, so another example would be if you have a beaker of water or a flask of water and you add HCl, hydrogen, hydrochloric acid, to that, it'll get warm. Okay, it's releasing energy. That's an example of a chemical reaction. The temperature change. Temperature change as a response to elements being mixed together, not a temperature change as in introducing temperature and causing a phase change. Okay, we're talking about two different things. Temperature change as a result of two substances being having a chemical reaction versus introducing temperature to force a phase change, okay? Or removing heat to force a phase change. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, you're talking about temperature as a product, not as a an input. All right. Light and heat as products of a chemical reaction. So some chemical reactions produce light. For example, fireworks shine when heat after an explosion. So we're talking about that combustibility, that flammability of certain salts. There's like, if you mix certain elements with salts, then it can produce different colors. For example, if you add like copper to a salt and you combust it, it'll turn green. okay? So that's how you get different colored fireworks. So an explosion with salts and other elements to absorb energy and to emit light. So that's an example of a chemical reaction. These things are products, okay? Color, temperature, light and heat are products, okay? Not inputs.
So fireworks are made from salt.
Yes.
It's called a fire.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be called salt?
No, because.
Oh.
Which sounds more catchy?
You use fire and oxygen to combust. Okay, all right, gas. Gas as a product, not like gas from your bum, gas from the chemical reaction, okay? Production of a gas can be a chemical change. Mixing baking soda and vinegar creates a carbon dioxide gas that appears as bubbles. Not bubbles like boiling bubbles, bubbles as in a product, okay? So if you were to spray, what is the stuff that comes in the brown bottle? Hydrogen peroxide on a boo-boo, on your knee, it's gonna form bubbles because there's a chemical reaction going on between the organic compounds on your body and the hydrogen peroxide.
Did you guys as kids do like the pretend to make potions and like
No,
get
no.
so?
Didn't everybody do
Yeah.
that?
Are you talking about like,
I
where?
didn't.
Like the bathroom and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You just get like a
family
bowl and just put soap. Try to mix lime with it.
My second grader does a lot of like, so my girls share, they have like a Jack and Jill bathroom. My one daughter, my older daughter is like super neat and tidy, like never, like her bathroom always just looks spectacular. It's Caitlin. And my younger daughter, like bless her heart, she's just a hot mess. She's always doing like experiments with her Legos or dolls, and there's just, it's always like involving water, and I'm gonna lose my mind.
No, my
I remember
sister,
his voice would
we
always
used
say
to
that.
share a sink,
That's just sweet.
and she would do stuff like that in the sink. I eventually just like left and moved. I moved my whole entire sink.
Yeah.
But it's so fun.
It's just-
Yeah, but you don't leave the mess there. You clean it up.
Yeah,
I always find like washcloths that she was using, like got super wet, and she like balled it up and like put it in a corner or under her bed, and I find them just like crusty later. Oh, it's bugs me. I don't know. All right, precipitates. Precipitates as a product of a chemical reaction, okay? And we're not talking about muddy water here. We're talking about two substances mixing together to create a precipitate, something that will settle to the bottom of a solution. So some chemical reactions between salt solutions can create solid particles that may settle out as a precipitate and fall to the bottom. Precipitate. I'm gonna try to find a video of this and show you guys tomorrow.
We should do it.
The lab on Friday is gonna be about density, so we're going to,
Burn stuff.
we're not gonna burn anything.
Okay, we cannot just Molly with fire at all.
Yes, we can.
I'm starting to see this like inner serial killer.
No.
Yeah, no.
Okay, there's like the serial killer triad.
There's
There's the pyrophilia, love of fire. There's like the harm of animals, and then there's that like, yeah, that serial killer triad. So you've got one part of
She
it.
had a trait too.
No.
She has
The
a-
problem is, my mom won't let me light candles, and I really want to, but she won't let me.
I can't even light a I don't
Molly.
blame her.
It's the same thing. I'm not allowed to touch matches anymore because I almost burnt.
It's okay, when I get older, I'll light my.
Y'all are scaring me.
I will
Okay.
light the fireworks too.
I'm not allowed to play the other I would just threw it in my glove. I just drove and it rattles like, and I just threw it in there.
I mean, the reason my mom doesn't trust me with fire is because I panic with fire and I just end up throwing it.
All right, let's do a quick review of what we learned. Let's review. And go. All right, chemical changes are changes that alter the chemical composition of a substance. Chemical changes always result in new products being formed. Okay, physical changes do not create new products and are often just phase changes. Chemical changes can cause a color change, just like a physical change, and they are not easily reversible. Right? Because you've got a new product now. And go. All right, chemical changes. New products are always formed in a chemical change. And you have the production or release, the products, light, heat, sound, bubbles, or precipitate. These will be products of a chemical reaction. Outputs. Not inputs, outputs. Okay. Examples of chemical changes. Wood burning. You start with wood, you end up with a pile of ashes and carbon, basically. Vinegar and baking soda. You start with those two elements and you create carbon dioxide. Baking cookies. You start with flour, sugar, butter, chocolate chips.
Except those like seasonal ones that you can get that like, you know, they got little shapes like the.
Oh, yeah, like the little Christmas trees.
Yeah, like the little Christmas tree or the Easter ones, those are so good.
Yeah.
Those are the only good ones.
They taste stale.
Interesting theories. Okay, so baking cookies, you start with the ingredients and then they combine chemically to form cookies. You don't like pull the cookies out of the oven and be like, oh, I'm gonna take the flour out now, okay? They're cookies, you can't really break them down again. All right, break them back to their original elements. Leaves changing color, that's an example of a chemical change. What's going on, just like think about bananas changing color. They're releasing what's called ethylene. It's a gas. So there's a gas being released. If you were to put a banana in a bowl of water, you'll be able to see teeny tiny little bubbles of ethylene gas being released. Okay, so that's a chemical change. There's a color change going on. So you don't take a green leaf that's turning yellow and make it a green leaf again. It just dies. Yeah.
Is that why you're not supposed to eat a brown banana?
Actually, brown bananas, they have more nutrients. Brown bananas are better for you. Although I read this on the internet, so I don't know if it's legit. Don't trust everything you read on the internet. Alrighty. Why do you freeze?
My dogs don't like trailers.
It's just gonna go. There we go. All right, we're gonna do our next clickers thing. Man, we're running out of time. I've been really chatty today. Okay.
I'm not gonna trust the person that almost like sliced me with scissors.
You're amigo. This innocent baby child.
Amigo?
All right, we're gonna do one round of clickers.
We're movie buddies.
Molly, you're a guy friend?
Exactly.
Amiga? Guy friend.
Amiga.
Amiga.
Amigo.
I am a friend.
Elena, is class over yet? Second amigos.
Amigos.
No, see, teacher, she's trying to abuse.
Oh my goodness. Okay, she hit me like 5 times on the hand, and now I'm gonna.
Okie dokie. These actually have correct answers. Okay, this is not a survey. You guys are smart enough to figure that out. All right, melting wax. Is that a physical change or a chemical change? Are you having, is there a new product being formed? Or is there no change in
my answer,
product?
Kayla? I'm not.
That is.
Go ahead and vote. Very good. Once you see your name turn blue, you can put your card down. Technology.
It's advancing, Elaine. It's gonna take over the world one day.
Still waiting on y'all. Okay.
I did.
Good job, guys. Everybody got it.
You didn't do good.
I did. It got it on my phone. Yeah, there we go. It's
It's
slow.
okay.
Okay.
We know you're right.
Water. This is so slow. Goodness gracious. Water boiling. Is that a physical change or a chemical change? Do you have a new product being formed? It doesn't like you. Why doesn't it like you?
Put it next to his hair.
Candy reverse or.
Uh-oh, y'all spun your cards. You answered correctly the first time. It shows me a little green dot or a yellow or a red dot.
Oh,
On your answer.
You didn't get. Molly, your figment of the imagination.
I will
All
stop
right.
you.
I think these were accidental. I think they were. Because water boiling is a phase change, which indicates a physical change. You're not, you're creating water vapor, but it's not a different substance. It's still water technically, okay? So phase changes are physical. Baking bread. Do you have a new product being formed?
What happens if you choose B? Bread is bread. Oh.
It'll just show up as,
I think I'm wrong. So I'm really wrong with everyone else.
Can you move your finger down? There we go. That didn't show.
Which one is it?
You're showing D. D is not an option.
What is it? Chemical?
Much better.
Oh, see, it's in it again. Oh, wow.
It's, oh, why would you turn it off? It was working.
What am I waiting on?
I was looking at.
Shit, there we go.
This is what
Can
we
you
call
move your finger? It's over the, there we go. It has to read the whole barcode apparently.
You really.
All right, this is a chemical change. Because you're starting with flour and yeast and salt and sometimes sugar, sometimes eggs, depending on the type of bread you're making, and you're ending up with bread.
You use bread to make bread.
No, what did I say?
You said bread.
Sometimes I say weird things.
Isn't that how you make
Right.
croutons? Croutons are like bread.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
bread.
I don't know, just disregard what I said, okay?
Is it
All right.
really stale bread?
Yeah.
That's what croutons are.
Ooh.
It's just seasoned stale bread?
Croutons.
Man,
I thought it was just like really.
I love those light bulbs, right? Oh,
Throw
sorry.
the cheese and stuff, and they're like, oh wow, this
This
is
is a lot.
All right, it's tearing paper. Is that a physical or chemical change?
That's for you.
This one should be so easy, guys.
Chemical.
There we go.
Chemical. That's temperature.
No.
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 Yes. You ready?
You
really wanna hurt you.
All right,
Thank you,
very
Jamie.
good.
Wow.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, last one. I'm sorry I didn't give you guys enough time to do homework.
Wire is best.
Wire is best.
That's definitely.
Yeah, it definitely changed into.
Really, Zach?
Oh, I must have forgotten something.
Good
Oh my gosh, it got me and I didn't even have it work. Oh my gosh, I didn't even that.
Good thing these aren't for a grade, Zach. You voted chemical. Did you mean chemical?
I will stick with my.
Wire is best.
I believe that you know the right answer. Okay. All right, bending wire is a physical change because no new product is being formed. Okay, 5 minutes is yours. Sorry, guys. I better stop this recording. There is mouse.
No, she's done. Molly, take it like a